But in 10 years, it's going to be quite a struggle for anybody that's trying to produce ICE engines or ICE transmissions. EVs are here to stay, and they're growing, but you better be ready with a very, very fat wallet, because there's lots of investment costs. If you want to get into today's market, you better have deep pockets. I think that this is going to be the biggest challenge that all OEMs around the world are going to have to look at. They're going to have to look at, what do we do with all these engine plants? What do we do with all of the technology and whatnot that we've got invested in the ICE world? What are we going to do with our sales teams and our dealerships and whatnot? How are we going to make these things happen if we're going to have to compete against somebody like Tesla? It's not the big that eat the small, it's the fast that eat the slow.
Alright, welcome back everyone, both new and old. If you are new, feel free to join the free Discord below. Crazy portfolios that I've been seeing these last few days who have joined, and a really good knowledge base of people there, ranging from 1 share to 10,000 shares. So it's free, join if you want. Don't like it, leave, all good. And yeah, let's crack on. Feel free to drop a like and comment below. Encourages me to grow the channel and pump out more videos. I appreciate that a lot. And just to give you a bit of background on myself, I'm a geologist working in the oil and gas sector of the North Sea, so the oil capital of Europe. Now, we'll be reacting to Sandy Munro and Stephen Mark Ryan. These guys come from different fields. However, I think I'll have some valuable input based on my background as a geologist, and I hope you guys enjoy the video.
The social trend among the general population, and this is not just the young, but the social trend among the general population is pushing for EVs. I have had dozens of people come in here talking about how they love their EV, whether it's a Prius or a Tesla or a whatever, it doesn't matter. They like the fact that they're not polluting the planet. These people are not young. These people that are coming to visit are in their 60s and 70s, and they're happy as a clam to be involved with something that's good for the planet, at least in their eyes. And then the last thing is, single ownership of vehicles is tending downward in favor of alternative patterns, including things like leasing, renting, and transportation as a service, all of which bodes well for EVs. So what about ICE? Okay, so at the end of the day, popular opinion is going against ICE. Inversely, the cost of an ICE is increasingly mostly due to government regulations, mandates, and public scrutiny. The public just wants to get rid of them. The worst could be the de-escalation of economies of scale that have to do with ICE production. So if you're trying to produce things on 3 shifts and 7 days a week, and suddenly you go down to 5 days a week and 1 shift, the cost is going to go up. And there's no question about that. And that's what I see coming about slowly, but in 10 years, it's going to be quite a struggle for anybody that's trying to produce ICE engines or ICE transmissions.
The Titanic that is the internal combustion engine automotive industry is headed for 3 separate icebergs, as Sandy points out there. The first of which is the tide of popular opinion has changed. People no longer want to use vehicles that poison and pollute, okay? It's as simple as that, and it's now becoming economically viable. The second point there is that the prices of the EVs over time continues to come down relative to internal combustion engines because of regulations, etc. Governments realize they don't want to poison and kill their citizens. We need to stop selling these internal combustion engine vehicles. So let's mandate that, so let's bring in legislation, etc. There's going to be a financial penalty. So there's that weight as well. Popular opinion, government incentive, and then the third piece of the puzzle is the legacy automotive manufacturers. If they're forced to reduce scale, they have to transition to EVs or they go bankrupt. That means they're going to lose economies of scale, which means they're going to lose profitability on their only profit-making vehicles, the internal combustion engine stuff, while they have to bleed billions trying to get profitable EVs manufactured at scale. They're in serious trouble. And I want to be real clear, guys. As hyperbolic as I can be at times, I'm dead serious when I say legacy auto is fucked and they're all going bankrupt, okay? Yes, there'll be 1 or 2 exceptions, there'll be mergers and acquisitions, people limping through and maybe they survive 12 years, but the vast majority of legacy automakers are headed for imminent bankruptcy this decade. You may see things different to me, and that's totally okay, but let's see what Sandy has to say about the industry.
On that note, I completely agree with everything Stephen's saying. Just from my perspective in the oil and gas field, it's very much the same case. Business is slopping, the price per barrel of the crude is lower, especially when you're targeting the oil rig segment in the North Sea. Prices are too high in terms of operational costs, and so the profitability is just non-existent. People are getting made redundant left, right and centre here, and that's in the energy sector. These guys are focusing primarily in the automaker segment, which is true, but you cannot forget that the energy sector is what's going to overtake all business segments within Tesla. So that needs to be taken into account as well. Let's crack on.
The other big OEMs, the ones in Europe, we've done comparisons with them. And as you can see, Tesla winds up with all the green boxes. When it comes to engine power, when it comes to acceleration and range, top speed and towing capacity, Tesla Model Y takes it all.
I just want to point out that the top line there, the HV battery, kilowatt hours, that's the size of the battery pack in each vehicle. So with the 75 kilowatt hour battery pack, smaller than the I-Pace at 90 and the e-tron at 95, Model Y is achieving more range, faster acceleration, greater top speed, greater towing capacity. So it's not like they're getting more done because they've got more battery capacity in the vehicle. They actually have less battery and they're getting more out of it. So this is like a double whammy. Some of you may have missed that. I just wanted to point it out. Very important.
So just a quick note, in terms of battery degradation in the Tesla Model Ys, there was a study conducted by Jeff Dunn, and he used NMC532 pouch cells with the Lifon Technology Company, and these utilize the dry batteries similar to the 4680 cells, and it was conducive that the degradation was so slow it was likely to hit 2 million miles in terms of the lifespan of the vehicles. So this is something else to take into account, especially on the topic of the million-mile battery. It's a very interesting study because it's such similar technology.
Let's have a look at worldwide. So now we're looking at the Audi, the BMW, the Jag, the Kia, the Nissan, the Tesla, and we're looking at the averages. And again, you can see that Audi wins in the two areas that they're the best at. The reason that it's hard to talk about anybody else is because the market is so dominated by Tesla. I don't know what everyone else is doing, but to me, this would be the company to benchmark. This would be the company to emulate. This would be the one that I would want to try and beat somehow, or at least come up with something that's going to be similar. Because if you're playing the game and you're playing one set of rules and somebody else is playing a different set of rules, you are definitely going to lose.
Ooh, I love that. Tesla definitely are a different beast playing a different game with different rules. I've been saying this from day one. They're not an automotive manufacturer. The entire mainstream media, Wall Street analysts mischaracterize this. They don't know what they're looking at. And it's not just the Wall Street dingbats and clowns in the mainstream finance media who've completely misunderstood Tesla. Their competition, so to speak, has also completely misunderstood what they've been looking at and thought they were playing the same game when they weren't. In 2013 or 2014, when Tesla announces a gigafactory and says by 2020 we're aiming to be producing 500,000 vehicles per year, and everyone's like, oh Elon, you're so crazy. When they talk about the fact that they're attempting to achieve fully autonomous vehicles and they're deploying vehicles now with all the hardware, all of the sensors necessary to do full self-driving in the future, and now it's just a software problem. Oh Elon, you're so crazy, that's never going to happen. Oh Elon. When they start innovating and developing new techniques for manufacturing, talking first about having lots of robots in the factory. Oh, Elon, you're an idiot. You're so crazy. That didn't work out great, did it, Elon? You're such an idiot. Production hell. What a loser, man. Why'd you even try that? Next minute, gigacastings. Next minute, gigafactories going up like that.
Completely agree with Stephen there. Now, another note to mention right now is, you know, I stay in the oil capital of Europe, and so Tesla, in terms of legislation, had a really difficult time getting here. And this is just some insight from the European perspective. I had never seen a Tesla prior to 2019. Never, ever seen a Tesla in my city. And during this pandemic, they opened a dealership here, and I've started seeing Teslas pop up, you know, 1 in every 20 cars, say. And that's crazy. Keep in mind, we're the oil capital of Europe. That's a big, big deal. And just to get some perspective, these guys are scaling and they're spreading like crazy. They're looking into Indonesia, they're looking into India. Like, you best believe they're going to crush it.
So let's have a look at how big that disparity is. So now we're looking at China sales, and this is year to date, June of 2020, and we're looking at BYD, GAC, SAIC, and then the BMW. That's staggering, the difference. Tesla is still making extra market share, but they've got stuff sitting in the wings. So they've got the Cybertruck, and they've got 2 more EV cars coming out, and one of them is a compact electric. I think that because of the COVID wars, the woes, I should say, the cultural changes, the young and the green, the value chain, which hasn't quite caught up yet, and the acquisitions and partnerships, which are too many to count, we're looking at a different world. And I think it's going to come along much, much faster than a lot of folks that are sitting in basically very high offices inside of the OEMs. It's going to come along a lot faster than they anticipated.
Bruh, I mean, I hate to point out the obvious, but just in case you haven't quite noticed, those are new EV sales in China. Tesla is dominating in China, the world's biggest and most mature EV market, with a government bent on transitioning everybody to renewable sources of energy ASAP. This is very important, okay? Tesla is dominating the Chinese automakers in China in the EV space.
I just wanted to add on there, the introduction of the $25,000 EV compact on Battery Investor Day, I called this out weeks ago, weeks prior to actually Battery Day occurring. This is what's going to allow full scaling and robo-taxi fleet access in the future with FSD. With that will accompany higher profit margins for software. So, you know, we're talking about Cybertruck, we're talking about Roadster. Don't get mistaken. The most important one is the $25,000 compact EV, because that's what makes it affordable to the masses.
The COVID financial woes has really, really changed the way people are thinking about product. So we're looking at conclusions now, and we're saying EVs are here to stay and they're growing, but you better be ready with a very, very fat wallet, because there's lots of investment costs. If you want to get into today's market, you better have deep pockets. And quite frankly, again, I look at all of the OEMs that are out there. I'm very nervous that they've spent too much time thinking that somehow their supply community will take care of them. They've been spending too much time thinking about how do I maintain my ICE assets. Sometimes people need to think of it in a different way. If you're on board a ship, you have an anchor. And if you get into a storm, you can toss that anchor overboard. The anchor will hold you in place and keep you from swamping the ship. It's a good thing. However, if the ship starts to sink, you probably don't want to hang on to the anchor. It probably won't help you. I guarantee it.
I love this analogy from Sandy. It's just perfect at summarizing what's going on in the legacy automotive industry, the internal combustion engine industry at the moment. Oh man, just brilliant.
Just on that topic as well, let's direct our outlook into the oil and gas sector, the energy sector to be more specific. These guys, in terms of full vertical integration, I've been contracted with BP, Shell and Chevron. I've been with them myself. They outsource everything from contracts to maintenance to absolutely everything, as opposed to Tesla, which is aiming for full vertical integration to increase profit margins, be in full control of the supply chain. That's why they're looking into Indonesia at the moment for the nickel. You know, Tesla's won. Tesla has won, and the beauty of this is it's going to stay on the internet, and I called it.
So what we have to do is we have to look at what are the anchors associated with our industry or our products or our company. We're going to have to find out what it is that we want to keep and what it is that we just have to abandon. And I think that this is going to be the biggest challenge that all OEMs around the world are going to have to look at. They're going to have to look at, what do we do with all these engine plants? What do we do with all of the technology and whatnot that we've got invested in the ICE world? What are we going to do with our sales teams and our dealerships and whatnot? How are we going to make these things happen if we're going to have to compete against somebody like Tesla? That's the first thing that I think we're going to have to look at.
These are really important questions. These companies have billions of dollars of equipment that is now going to be completely and utterly useless, Robots, machines, tools, things that are designed specifically to manufacture internal combustion engine vehicles will no longer be relevant. Many of the high-level engineers who have expertise in internal combustion engine vehicles are next to useless when it comes to battery technology. Now, I don't mean to disparage the engineers, but you understand the point that I'm making. There's so much stuff that needs to be abandoned. The legacy internal combustion engine crap, it's weighing these companies down, and it's going to be brutally expensive and intellectually draining to figure out how do they make the transition in the least painful way possible while still staying afloat financially, if it's even possible, and at the same time developing compelling electric vehicles. I mean, this is a really tough ask.
Now, this is a really good point that can be also directed to the oil and gas sector. When full EV conversion occurs in regards to semi-trucks, economies of scale as applied to the compact EVs, the Model Ys, the Model 3s, and the further lines in the coming years that Elon will introduce, the oil rigs for these oil and gas companies, the maintenance, the contractors, a lot of things are going to be nullified. Like, I'm very aware that my job's going to be useless, completely useless. But, you know, I don't mind because I invested in Tesla, so it's fine.
So they're going to have to, all car companies are going to look at the architectures that are being changed daily by Tesla. Investments, how are we going to make those investments? The technologies that are out there, how much in technology do we need to invest in our own companies versus buying it from someone else? And when you buy a technology and you don't have any profound knowledge, how are you going to compete in the future? And then the raw materials that we're going to need. How are we going to try and do what we need to do in order to make things right? And the last one, of course, is infrastructure.
Now, I don't want to be a downer here, but in my personal opinion, Sandy is painting a pretty bleak picture for the future of legacy automakers. Let's be honest, it's not looking good. There's about 400 different Mount Everest they need to simultaneously climb, while Tesla continues to run away with the lead. I mean, good luck, guys.
Spoke like a prophet. Well done.
I have a couple of little words of wisdom for everyone. It's not the big that eat the small, it's the fast that eat the slow.
That is a quote and a half from Sandy, sums the situation up perfectly. In fact, some of you guys might remember from a video maybe a month ago when I was discussing Tesla engineering, I actually used a similar analogy and described Tesla as an apex predator entering a new ecosystem that's been in relative stability for a number of years. Suddenly, Tesla, out of nowhere, arrives and it's able to absolutely dominate because it's a different beast. It's not like Tesla's out to kill, maim and murder everything else that's living in that environment. But hey, if they're hungry, I mean, you just might be their lunch. Nothing personal.
I also just want to add, when it comes down to these old legacy car makers along with the bureaucratic oil and gas companies, these companies are really old and their mentality and how they get things done is very outdated. Tesla is the beast of beasts when it comes down to innovation, exponential innovation, so people can't catch up. That's why they released the patents a couple of years prior, because they don't care about last year's patent when they've just proposed another 3 or 4 ahead of the game. They're not trying to exterminate the other companies. They're trying to get humans to transition away from oil and gas as fast as possible. That's the aim. So this constant innovation, this creativity that Tesla sparks is what allows it to innovate so fast. And this is completely opposed in all other companies, including the oil and gas segment. So that's something I wanted to add.
That leopard that you're looking, or cheetah, or whatever he is, he's looking for something to eat. And I think that big cat, I think his name is Tesla. If you're not investigating Tesla, you better be. If you don't know everything about Tesla, you better find out. Because you don't want to get stuck in the ice age.
Alright, so that's the end of the video, people. I hope you enjoyed. Feel free to drop a like and a comment and subscribe if you're new below. Check out the Discord, it's free. Got a lot of good portfolios and members that have joined that are quite informative, who have a lot of experience. So yeah, have a nice day and I'll see you later.